to eat and go through the presentation and discussion and everything like that. So we'll do the official. That the time is 6:08, so I will call the special called work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. We have a quorum. Everyone is present. We do have just one item on the agenda tonight, and that's the discussion of sanitation bid specifications. We will do a short executive session after we're done with the sanitation discussion. We've got a couple of things to go over with everybody. So we'll do an exec session. Just a couple of things to note with all the new people on. We are doing, this is a special call work session, so we need to stay only on this topic of the sanitation services. We can't veer off into other things. Sometimes it's easy for us to get waylaid. But if we do that, then we'll just bring the conversation back to what we're talking about. The other issue is that these are the specifications of services that will go into the bid package that will be bid upon by the trash services. What we won't be able to discuss tonight is what the city charges for fees for residents, because that's a separate discussion from what goes into the bid package. Because when we put out the bid for services, the trash haulers are going to be bidding on the cost of those services, not on what we're going to turn around and bill to our residents. So that part would be a later discussion later on in another time, budget time, whatever. Okay? Any questions on that? And I will turn it over to whoever is going to start us off.
David?
Y'all continue eating, and I mean, this is a work session, so I mean, feel free to use questions, you know, whatever. Make sure if we're throwing out acronyms, stop. Make sure everybody knows what we're talking about.
So I sent everybody a memo, a brief memo, 2-page memo that all run through, and then a corresponding chart that kind of gives you the staff's recommendations on what we need to include in this bid. So let me just really give a reminder for our folks to get here, maybe a good education for folks that are new on kind of how the city's sanitation stuff is set up. So Waste Management is the city's current provider, and they provide commercial services exclusively, and then they sub out the residential piece to a company called Lake and Home Sanitation. And right now we have about 450 businesses, commercial customers that Waste Management services, and we provide a choice of a 2-yard dumpster to an 8-yard dumpster. The 8-yard is the typical ones you see in size. You know, it kind of has like a box shape, has the lid on top and one on the side. Customers can request a pickup from one time a week up to 6 times a week of commercial. And then the city staff handles all the commercial billing. So we receive that, we send them the bills, they pay us, and we take that money that we collect from them and pay our contract. Lake and Home Sanitation serves about 7,600 households through the garbage program, and then about another, of that 7,600, about 1,200 are in the extra garbage car / recycling program. It's a subscription-based program. The current fees for that, right, you can see there are $240 for the garbage service and $144 for the recycling subscription service. So how we got to where we are now, why we're having this conversation is the city is at the end, nearing the end of its 10-year contract with Waste Management. It sunsets on June 30th, 2026, so the end of this fiscal year. And so as a result, we've got to prepare an invitation to bid, a request for proposals, there's multiple names for it, to go out to the market and signal to folks that we need to, our contract is up and we need to find a new provider. Now, Waste Management very well may win the next contract. It's not that we're moving on from them moving on from them completely. I mean, if they put a bid in their competitive bid, then they'll certainly be considered. But we can no longer extend the contract longer than we have.
So what we've done in the past is we get like a 3 or 5 year contract with them, with the rates at a certain amount or a small escalation. And then after the 5 years, the contracts usually have 1 year extension renewals that we can renew for another year for a negotiated increase. And so that's where we are in that picture.
So most of the recommendations that we will be going over to staff to prepare for you all is really on the residential side. We don't really see much of a change at all with the commercial. It's all pretty much going to stay the way it is now. There might be some slight changes in the recycle center, the amount of pickups we get, but that really has nothing to do with the commercial billing. That's just something that the city has. So let me run through. So I will kind of jump to this just because it's easier to see but all of what's in here is contained in a narrative form in your memo. So the frequency of pickup won't change. It'll be once a week per resident. We're proposing a 6 a.m. pickup time to give enough time for folks to get picked up in a timely manner. The garbage carts, the size right now is 65 gallons, but based on the research that staff has done, 95 gallons is really the standard now. And so we recommend you go to a 95 gallon bin. What's been explained to us by Latham is 95 gallons can give us an extra 2 to 3 bags, in the actual container. And with that, so right now, the way that the recycle program and extra garbage cart program works is folks can pay for an extra garbage cart. So it's $10 a month for $120 total. And so they can have 2 garbage carts. Right now that's 65 gallons. Really and this is really a piece of feedback from all of you on how you want to do this going forward. What we recommend is you get a 95 gallon as part of the program, and if you want an extra 95 gallon bin, that's fine, you pay for that. And each kind of subsequent trash can that you want, you pay that $120 fee. Now we can cap that if you guys want to cap that at a certain amount of how many garbage cans you want someone to have. That's up to you on how you want to do that. Different places do it differently, some don't. Some, as long as folks want to pay for it, will have as many trash cans as they want. Some will cap it at a certain amount. It just depends on what you want to do with that.
And how it may impact the neighborhood. You have like 12 garbage cans in front of your house.
Yeah, that's a thought.
That can be a negative.
It's a thought.
Well, you've also got the thing, if you're, one of the issues we have in the city are the houses being split, with multiple tenants in a single family home. If you're allowing trash cans as many as they want, it almost kind of encourages that too. I mean, if you're in a single family home, how much trash are you really going to generate?
And we feel like with 3 5 gallon bins, that's quite a bit of trash. And I don't expect people to want more than 3 bins total. I don't expect people to want more than an extra bin, really. So I don't know how much of a problem it will really be. But it's better to have them have a bin than have loose trash, on the side of the cart.
Do we know in the other cities how if the people who are allowing them to have extra ones, do you know any other cities that we can compare to?
I think Loganville, Rick does that, right? Loganville allows, this is Rick Jarvis of Latham, he's here listening to our conversation. Loganville, I think, allows as many as someone may have.
And what's the feedback though? Do you know if it's been positive where the cities or?
I don't know, I think it's so few that I don't know if they're really.
So you were saying that Bougainville does that and they can have as many trash bins as possible?
And we have maybe a half dozen in that whole city, and most of them are people that foster children. They have a lot of, they create a lot of trash.
So half a dozen out of how many?
Out of 5,800.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really a very small number of folks that we think is really gonna apply to. But nevertheless.
The most you're gonna see is
it's,
probably 2.
Or a total of 3 cans.
But the trade-off too is, you know, what we've got currently, and I may be jumping ahead a little, but we've got the 65-gallon bin, which is smaller, but you've got the blue bag program, where people can go to Kroger or Publix or Public Works and buy the blue bags and put in overflow trash there and put it up with their trash can. Going to the 95-gallon bin, it allows almost 3 extra bags of trash to go in that one bin. So then some people who consistently use the blue bags don't need those anymore. They'll be able to do it just within their service.
And some people who avoid buying the blue bags because of the cost of a blue bag.
Sure.
So that's an additional cost too. I know people in my neighborhood, they don't want to use the blue bag system.
Yeah.
They feel like they're already paying for trash, but then they'll go to the recycling center.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'd say we just, you know, for now, let's leave it at 2 extra carts. And if we see a huge surge, we can address that. But I think that's.
So everything's not etched in stone, we can come back and revisit and make that.
If we need to. I mean, if Rick's saying only a dozen folks out of 6,000 households are really having more than the average, then I don't anticipate it being a major problem for us going forward. So bulk pickup, yeah.
Do we know about how long it takes to pick up trash each day? Like what time of day are they done? Are the trucks done?
What time are you got? 6 to 11, 6 to 12?
You can particularly you can pick up about 600 houses in about 4.5 hours, 5 hours, depending on traffic, depending on schools and the dump. So, but typically anywhere from 8 to 10 hours is what a guy works.
And how many houses did you say?
How many houses he serves in a day?
Yeah.
1,000, right around 1,000 houses a day.
So all day? Yeah. So the bulk pickup program, what we recommend is, you know, in our research, you know, no one really does a blue bag program anymore. It's not really something that you're going to find. I think that we may be the really only city that does it that way. And so what we found is what most folks do, what we recommend we do is, you know, each household gets 2 bulk pickup items. So that could be a drawer, a chest of drawers, and a bed frame. I don't know, something that, and folks would let David's team know, hey, we have 2 items that we want for bulk pickup, and David would coordinate that with the hauler to make sure they're aware that there might be a few bulk pickup items on their route that day. There's, you know, a bit more of an education piece from staff to make sure folks know what we would pick up and what we won't pick up. You know, bulk pickup doesn't mean old tires and car batteries and, you know, paint and, you know, that sort of thing. But we think that's a much better, simpler way to go. The blue bag program has really kind of run its course. It confuses people. It adds more work for our folks to have to manage that. And so if folks are paying for garbage, we just roll that into that fee that they're paying, that they get that option to do bulk pickup with the city.
Will we have an option to schedule that online? Or request that pickup online? Or will they have to call?
They'll have to call. For now.
But maybe we can. We've made other things work that were impossible.
Yeah. The call for now, yeah. Yard debris bag, same thing. Right now, the city has a specific yard debris branded bag that you have to buy. There's really no need for that. I mean, they're those large 95-gallon paper bags that you see at Lowe's or Home Depot. They're pretty standard. You know, our recommendation is let folks buy whatever standard bag, and it's part of the residential fee, and we'll pick up their yard debris.
Does that have to be arranged or will that go with them?
We don't require it to be arranged now, do we, Dave? Just bulk.
Well, the way it is now, they call the hauler directly.
Yeah.
the numbers on the bag with the bags they buy now. But I think for the future,
Yeah, it'll be through us, yeah. Just like bulk pickup.
So, does that potentially raise the cost of the bid price that we get? That we're just including yard waste in there? Because under the
For
bag.
sure there's a cost difference.
Yeah,
So
under the
what that
bag
is-
program, the whole idea of having somebody go in and like buy the blue bags or buy the yard bags is it's the user cost, right? They're now paying for that extra load that's going to the landfill. Where the city's contract covered 65 gallons of trash, right? If you've got more trash than that, you're gonna go buy the blue bag, and the cost of buying that blue bag defrays the added cost of the landfill, in excess of what you have. That's the whole idea. So if we're taking away that they have to buy the city bag, that money's gonna come defray that cost, and they're just buying any bag on the market, then that means the hauler's gonna be building in that little bit of extra cost into their bid price.
And then, the last thing we talked about, we saw in some bids that we thought was an interesting idea. Opportunity for you to give us feedback on is, some cities have a kind of upon request from the hauler, to bring out a 30-yard dumpster to a neighborhood that maybe has some code enforcement issues or has a lot of junk, that people can come in and throw all their junk in a dumpster, and then it will be hauled off for them as part of a cleanup effort there. A few thoughts on that would be, there are some folks who don't have cars that they could fit a chest of drawers in, or something they would like to get rid of, and getting it to the recycle center or somewhere else could be pretty difficult. I think you've got, some folks that are older, and just physically it's harder to get stuff moved. And then I think it's an opportunity for code enforcement to be a little more proactive on getting compliance without having to ticket folks if the city provides an opportunity, a place in someone's neighborhood to dump some stuff that they otherwise wouldn't be able to.
How much is the dumpster?
We don't know that yet.
So who will pay the cost for that?
The city.
That would be part of the contract.
And we were running.
Yeah.
And then the dumpster will stay out there for X amount of days, give the citizens enough time to put their things in there. When you drop it, you order it, it's dumped on Tuesday between these hours, you have time, and come Tuesday at this time, we're taking the dumpster.
Probably the latter. Yeah, probably just a few hours.
Right.
Code enforcement would be out
Probably
there.
on a Saturday or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, code enforcement would be out there to kind of make sure that folks aren't dumping the tires and the paint and the stuff that has to be recycled properly.
So let's say, because when Matt first kind of explained this to me, I was thinking like a rotating, like quarterly, we're going out to like all of these different neighborhoods and doing this. But it's really more targeted than that. It's, let's say, pick a street, Sunny's Drive, that there's a lot of code enforcement, people with junk in the yards, stuff that's been building up. Johnny, through code enforcement, identifies this area, maybe good time to come and drop, that we've got 4 times a year that they could pick a targeted area like that, come and drop a dumpster with a notification, maybe a postcard goes out to that neighborhood beforehand or something, says, hey, we'll have this here, this many hours, dump what you can, we'll haul it.
The one thing that comes to mind would be our code enforcement team, when you said to be there and make sure people follow the rules. Just knowing how people and their attitudes are, and in this space, it's like, oh, doing this, like, are we putting too much pressure on you in that space? When you have to
Yeah,
kind of
more
police
than
people?
likely it will be me that's out there,
It'd be,
especially on a Saturday,
Mhm.
not for inventory.
I can't hear you.
It would more likely be me that's on site, not bringing Tori.
Oh, yeah. So you'd be by yourself, having to manage that? whole
Pretty
process?
much, but I mean, Chief and them's running around if I need somebody.
And that would be one of my biggest concerns too, because what neighborhood I'm thinking about where you have the Parkview apartments, townhomes, or condominiums, when you go back all the way to the back where their dumpster is, it's a gated area, but it is just not pleasant at all. And I don't know if because they're not getting picked up or serviced in the amount of time that they need to, or just because the people in the community, I have no idea. But I know that that's a really blight area, and those citizens want trash picked up more regularly, but at the same time, you may have people who don't want to follow the rules and are going to do those things, so I really want to make sure that the education piece, how are we going to educate our citizens so that they follow these rules and it's not a huge burden on code enforcement, especially when they're just by themselves. I mean, it's already hard enough to give people, who respect our, they're all law enforcement, Officer Green is an officer, but we want to make sure that citizens are aware they can follow the instructions, but we want to protect our team when they go out there and they have to do that. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and this is a suggestion, if you don't want it, you guys decide you don't want to do it, I'm not saying that this is something I want to do. But yeah, I mean, we don't know the ins and outs of that yet, because we've never done it. So the reason why we designed it the way it was, if we try this once and it's a failure, I'm gonna do it again, or we wanna try something different. And so originally it was gonna be like a quarterly thing, we said, let's just do at a flat rate when we want to, where we think we need to, and if it blows up in our face, then we won't do it again.
I mean, yeah, like I like it,
And
I like the
if
idea.
it doesn't work for whatever reason, some of the concerns you brought up are valid.
Yeah, I just don't have-
How do we make sure just the neighborhood people come? How do we keep it from the whole city descending on one neighborhood? I don't really know the answer to that, other than we just don't put it online and we try to send postcards to that specific neighborhood. But that doesn't mean someone can't take a picture of it and put it on their Facebook and say, hey, the city's gonna come bring a dumpster to my cul-de-sac, and come bring your stuff. So there are some things that we need to be worked out. I think at this point, conceptually, are you all okay with it? If not, we can remove it and we won't have to do that. But we could ask them to put a price to bring it out, and then we can decide how we want to manage the program if we decide we want to try it.
It would definitely be my two concerns, cost, and then the impact on our staff who would have to manage that, and then the communities.
And we do have the two options already of the consider and the bulk pickup. So, I mean, somebody don't have a vehicle, they can rent a Home Depot truck for $20, something like that. So, I mean, there are options out there for people to get it, but I mean, just in the bulk pickup, it may not be that they can put 5 things out at 1 week, they can only do the 2. It may take multiple weeks to get rid of it.
And they may see more value with the 240 added to their bill if we show them that we're giving them more services to what they have to pay.
And if you're,
I think the bulk pickup.
Let's talk about how it's $17 for a box of 10 bags. It takes 3 bags for one item. So if you have one item, that's $5.11 for one item. 2 items a week would be $10.20. So if they're paying an extra $20 for 2 items a week, they're getting their money's worth, right? So if you're saying that they're gonna get 2 items a week, 2 bulk items, let's just say, I just looked at every CD around here. Most of them have a bulk item. Some have a bulk item pickup form, some of them have a request where you can call and request a bulk item pickup.
What cities? You said cities around here?
Every
like
single
most
one of them, like,
All the 16 cities around?
I just looked at least 7 of them. Most of them have bulk item pickups and you can either call, request a form, and it's included. However, like, even with that being said, we have to like kind of adapt the standard. Is it going to be worth it? Yes. If we have whatever contract you put out, the cost is going to be comparable for what they're spending right now. So if you take a mattress and you put it outside your house, it's going to cost you $5.11 for one mattress. We have a bulk pickup. They can put 2 things out a week, and you're saying that's what 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah, I'm not disputing the bulk pickup, I'm talking about the dumpster. that big dumpster.
Yeah.
So we're agreeing with the bulk pickup, so that's not a debate for me.
So
I'm on
the
point.
dumpster for me would be like a community cleanup. So let's think about a community cleanup, right? Maybe there are some people in the community that can't get out. And if we do have a dumpster placed for, let's say, a Friday for 6 hours, then that gives the community an opportunity to help their neighbors and assist.
It's also a volunteer opportunity for
As long as
SYC
it doesn't
and Boy
push down
Scouts.
on code
I
enforcement.
think when you say
So I'm
community,
good with that.
you're getting away from the idea of what you're talking about, because first you're talking about a street. When you say community, that includes a whole lot of people.
Yeah,
And,
so it have to be requested, right?
right, but it goes back to what he's saying, you got people from all over the city who consider themselves part of the community. They're gonna come to that dumpster and dump that.
Versus neighborhood or neighborhood.
Correct.
Right, well, it's 3 or 4, because Summit Chase is a big neighborhood. One dumpster in Summit Chase ain't gonna do much,
Right.
but it might be 3 or 4 streets.
And then we're identifying areas that are blank, right?
Right.
Not just,
And that's
Yeah, it'd be the more troublesome area.
That's my question for Johnny. When you, like these blight areas, like wherever you would drop a dumpster tomorrow if you could, how much of that junk is dumpsterable versus tires and paint and stuff that we can't?
Well, a lot of it can be hauled off. I mean, a lot of it's just people throw stuff in the yard, and that's as far as it makes it, and it sets it. Then we come in, and then they start looking at what it's gonna cost them to move it, and get it picked up. And some people can't afford it.
Right.
You know, I can write tickets, but that's just another burden.
But if we offer them a dumpster to dump it all in and they still don't use it, then they're still gonna get fined and.
Well, then,
As
yeah,
they-
well, then that's on them.
Right, absolutely, yeah, I'm not saying that as a, we shouldn't. I'm
But
just
like,
saying-
I think Kat was bringing up more of like Park West
Yes.
and
right.
Kingsgate. See, apartments and townhomes are completely different. They've got their own dumpsters,
Yeah,
but they're also a dumping site.
right.
Right.
I just wanna make sure if we're paying for this, that we're not looking at these blight neighborhoods and it's 17 cans of paint and not stuff they can bring anyway.
And that's why you would have to monitor,
Right,
you know.
How much would that cost?
But if you do a mailer that goes out, you know, you
See, we
can
don't know
list,
yet.
this is what you can put in, these items are
Right.
not gonna be taken.
So the conversation right now is, you know, the way it would be in the contract is we just ask them to give us a flat rate to bring a truck up and pick it up. And then we decide how often and where.
Yeah.
So,
And if I can add on to that, the way we originally had it written was it was once a quarter. It was almost mandatory that we do it once a quarter. And we put it more on the city, on Matt, on y'all, to pick the times and places that it went, whenever y'all wanted to. Y'all never have to do it, you know, but if you do it, it's a price. So, I think it's more flexible. If it doesn't get used, then don't use it.
but it doesn't need to be something that we're broadcasting. It's just in the contract. And if you want to use it, we'll do it. We'll figure it out in a way. And if not, then no one, it's not like we're making a promise to people
Yeah.
that we're going to do it and we don't.
So are you, all right, let me back up and make sure I'm clear. Are you saying that this would be a line item in the bid, and we would say, what would be the price to do this per instance? And
And it's in the
just give us
contract.
a flat price. And so it's not something they're building into it that we can do it and we don't really know what it's costing. It would be like, okay, we'll do this for $250
Yes.
each time.
Yes.
And then we don't pay that unless we do it.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, that's different.
Yeah, that is.
Because I would say, let's go ahead and get a price for it, and then we just decide at some point if
would
we.
that
never
be
have to do
something
it.
then that Johnny would bring to Matt and say, hey, we need a dumpster in Summit Chase, and Matt can approve it and it's done?
Yep. Or anybody here is like, hey, you know, I noticed this, Johnny, Matt, what if we did this here?
But when we say we, are we talking the city would pay for, or is this gonna be something spread amongst?
No,
The city would pay for it.
So it would be built into the monthly fee.
It will?
It would not be.
It would not be.
It would not be.
So question, would this include special events?
No.
Well, special events are a different
Separate.
thing. Yeah. But to that point, we do have in the contract where we get X amount of 20-yard dumpsters for the year for special events. That would be built into the contract.
And there's twice a year that Gwinnett County does a thing where you can get rid of paint and tires and all that. They usually send me the information, I usually get Brian to put it on the website, in the magazines, and
I always share that out too, yeah.
Yeah, so really, we're at this point of, when we put it in the bid, we have not gotten as far to figure out the programmatic side of it. It's right now, we want to have it as an option, as an arrow in the quiver, so to speak, and when we want to use it, we can use it, if we don't, if we never use it, then we just never use it. But it's there.
I'm fine with that. I really thought it was gonna be something that was just gonna be built into
No, I'm
our
sorry,
bid
I'm not thinking
price.
about that.
Yeah,
No.
and I didn't wanna do that,
It was
especially,
Originally, and we took that out.
Originally.
The more we thought about it, we thought that's not gonna work.
yeah.
Then
But
the
we
last,
Okay.
sorry, then the last thing about that would be to make sure if it's a weight or something, a limit of that dumpster, once it gets to a certain capacity,
Yeah,
then that'll be,
yeah.
just to make sure that they may charge us extra if it reaches this, maybe an additional fee, just to make sure that's clear
Sure.
in the contract.
And it may come to a point where we get to the bids and a contractor's like, I really don't, no one really does it that way. No one does the same day pickup or no one, you know, we kind of say, okay, you know, just give us a flat rate and we'll just, you know, we'll continue to promote Gwinnett counties or we'll continue to encourage folks to use Recycle Center. But if they say, well, you can do it this way, then we say, okay, well, maybe build a little program around it. We give it a whirl. It works great. We try it again. If it works terribly, then we're never going to do that again. We had traffic jam. We had people coming from all, you know, and it just got away from us.
Pushing our ideas.
You know, but I just don't know. I don't. All I've ever seen is like the big events, like at the county fairground and stuff, and those get overrun. So I'm not really extremely confident that it's. But I figure it's better to have it in there than not have it in there.
Good
To
idea.
decide.
Would there be an option for a neighborhood to come in and say, hey, we're gonna do neighborhood cleanup on this weekend, can we have a dumpster?
Well, I think the idea would be for the neighbors that have HOAs to work with
Right.
the HOA to kind of say, could you just send you do your email listserv or however you have it organized, let folks know. You know, that's the easiest way, but not every neighbor has an HOA, and not everyone uses email and other sort of things. So the messaging is a challenge.
Right, but if we're gonna provide a service to blight neighborhoods, we need to provide it to non-blight neighborhoods. The people that, a neighborhood that just is spring cleaning and wants to get rid of their stuff, can they call and say, hey, can we have a dumpster this
I would say
weekend?
no. This is a city-driven thing. This is not a by request. You know, we're not going to do that. It's going to be Johnny telling us, hey, look, this is a troubled area. And I think if we brought a dumpster, we could solve a lot of these problems. And me and my team don't have to be down there as much, you know, talking to people. That's really what it is. It's not all these neighborhoods, you can call us, they can do that on their own anyway. I mean, they don't need us to do that now. They can do that. We allow folks to individually, if someone's remodeling a house, they don't have to get the roll-off dumpster from us. They can get whoever they want in the market.
They used to have to.
They used to, yeah, but
Our
we
home.
changed that. But I think a neighborhood would fall the same way. So if, you know, Woodbury or whoever else wanted to, you know, do neighborhood cleanup, then I would just tell them, hey, call whatever hauler you want and bring them out there and they can do it, that sort of thing. So this is really a mechanism for us to avoid, you know, really having to take the more, you know, penal approach to code enforcement issues. Trying a creative way of encouraging folks to clean up their yards and things and not write a bunch of tickets. That's not really our goal.
Our whole goal with code enforcement is not to cite people and raise funds. You know, the goal is compliance. Keep your stuff up.
And this is a non-ticket way. So those are our recommendations. Any questions about any of these? Concerns about any of these?
I have a question.
Sure.
So some of my questions are going to be really based in crafting my understanding. So if we do get questions from our constituents or citizens, we have understanding, you know, what to say. And so one of my questions would be on the non-change and on the commercial side, since this is handled by Waste Management. I understand they subsidize it to basically for residential. How come there's a change on the residential side and none on the commercial side?
So we're not changing any kind of services on the commercial side. So the residential side, we're talking about changing the blue bag program, eliminating that. We're talking about increasing the size of the cart from 65 gallons to 95 gallons. Commercial sanitation, it's gonna be dumpsters, the same size range of dumpsters, the same amount of, opportunities for pickup. Just none of that's really gonna change. The market for commercial sanitation, there's not a lot of variability in that. I mean, you get a dumpster, you tell us how many times a week you want it picked up. That's really it. I mean, there really isn't any.
So I'm gonna assume like one of the reason for the increase with waste management, not only because cost of living, all these increases, but if the contract is 10 years old, I'm going to go on a limb and say we probably had how many, if not hundreds to thousands or less houses, residential side, in which that contract first was initiated versus how much they put it, picking up 10 years later. Right, and then also
Well, a couple of things on that point. Each time the house numbers goes up, the contract amount goes up because it's a
Okay.
per household price that we're paying.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is, if you think about this 10-year period was COVID. So haulers, we're at 2005, this contract's up 2006. Am I right? It was after COVID. When did we approve the contract that we're now under?
2016.
2016. Oh, okay, never mind. Forget that. But prices have risen, gas prices. So this is what always impacts the sanitation fees. And what we've been fighting since, ever since I've been on council, and I'm sure ever since way before, the earth got started and we started having landfills. The things that keep causing sanitation fees to go up, and Rick can nod or weigh in. You have gasoline, right? You have salaries and wages. Go out and try to hire a garbage truck driver anymore for less than $90,000 or more. Especially after, a couple of years ago, when everything just went crazy after COVID, no one wanted to work. The only way you can get people is to pay like exorbitant amounts of money to get people to come do that. So you've got fuel costs, you've got the salaries, dump fees. Landfills are highly regulated. A lot are closing because they're getting full. You can't get new ones opened. The trucks have to drive further to get to landfills to drop the stuff. Highly regulated, costs go up. So we've got some of those kinds of things that all factor into sanitation costs. There was a couple of years way back when where the haulers negotiated like an extra surcharge to cover fuel because gas had gone up to like $4 or $5 a gallon. And then we were able to get that back down once the gas prices came down, a year or two later. But so you have some things like that that feed into there. But they're not going down. There's no place that insurance is another. Your house and your car insurance is everybody's up 30%. Well, think about a trash hauler and the insurance they've got to carry. So all of those costs, you can't not pay it, right? You can't negotiate it down. So this is why the sanitation rates have gone up so much, and this is why we're expecting this bid to, come back less favorable than what we have.
For the
I think the other part that we kind of don't talk about is the fact that the city was eating up.
Excuse me, I'm
A
sorry.
lot of that cost was coming out of the city budget, not in the general fund,
Oh, all of
as
it was.
opposed to the direct cost of the residents.
TJ, what other question? It's like you have another question you want to ask.
So waste management also handle recycling services for us? Are they anticipating like a huge drop, and if so, is that going to overall affect our price? Meaning this, so waste management also handle recycling. Talking to my neighbors, and this is the things that probably Ms. Captain also kind of leaning to, like just kind of feeling the people, understanding how they see. Talking to my neighbors, we all are recyclers, we tree huggers. We all already agreed that when the price go up, and now I'm looking to get a larger size, then I'm not going to pay that $144 price for a recycle. I want to assume that most of our 1,200 recyclers, even though we want to recycle, when I've been too arrogant what I believe, that half of that, if not more than half, probably the next description is gonna be like, hey, I want this 144 so I can go towards my overall bill. So I can see that 144 then becoming the big thing. So it's waste management when they come back and say to you like, hey, we lost this 144, this many percentage in recycling, can we now redo the contract to charge more later? Or is that gonna be locked in something that we locked in, we'd be good to do? I can really see us, like, I know I'm gonna give up my 144 a year recycling and
Just throw it in the trash can.
yeah, I'm just throwing in a bigger trash can.
No.
Sarah,
But I mean, a lot of people did that. A lot of people, when we began charging for the recycling, a lot of people just said, forget it, I'm going to just throw my garbage. And I know that we are a city that wants to promote environmentally friendly, tree hugging, land space, and the like, and yet, when we charge that, we lost a lot of that. So I agree, how are we going to try to preserve, encourage, and get people back to being more environmentally friendly while at the same time providing the sanitation service because we need it.
Can I weigh in on that?
Absolutely.
So here's the reason why we did what we did with the recycling. A lot of people were recyclers, and I'm guessing that you guys are good recyclers.
Oh,
You only put the right stuff in there, you clean it out, stick it in.
Yeah.
A lot of our recyclers were using it as a second trash can or a third trash can. And they were putting things in there that don't count for recycling. When that happens, and that recycling stuff goes to the dump, and it gets dumped, and the people in the sorting center see what gets dumped, they say, this is all contaminated, it's garbage. Now instead of $40, it's gonna be $100. So all of that, and then it all gets thrown off into the trash can anyway.
Yep.
So most of, a good portion of what was being picked up was contaminated, plastic bags, everything else. So it was all having to go to the dumpster anyway. And yet we're paying more for this extra recycle pickup that the city was bearing the cost for. When we went to charging, number two, we have this state-of-the-art recycling center that people come from all over the southeast to look at. Incredibly huge, the only one around in Gwinnett, anywhere close. When Loganville made the change and when Grayson made the change to start charging, our center recycling went up. People said, I'm not paying for that, I'll take it to Snellville Recycling. When it comes to the recycling center, it's all sorted, it's in the right places, people can bring their glass. Tree huggers are really happy. We can recycle glass. So it pushed a lot more people. The really strong tree huggers that didn't want to pay extra, they come to the recycling center and we have it all sorted and it gets carted off that way. So now that we went to the subscription service, the people that are willing to pay for it are the people that are going to do it right. And they're putting the right stuff in there. So when we take this stuff to the recycling center, it truly is recyclable stuff. And while we're talking about recycling, CJ, another reason why the costs on sanitation have gotten kind of out of kilter. Back in the olden days, you could get money for cardboard and plastic. You could sell off a lot of plastic. You got money for glass. You got money for this stuff. There was a big change. China was accepting all plastic, and there were barges full of plastics going to China, and they would just take it all and buy it. All of that's gone. Truly, there's very few places that can recycle anything other than plastic 1 and 2, which are milk jugs and water bottles. All of that other plastic, just gets mixed in and you can't use it. But we used to get money. We used to be able to sell cardboard. We had a big baler, had a big big building out there where they could bale cardboard and they could hold it till prices went up and then sell a whole bunch. So that recycling income used to help offset some of the residential garbage fees. We would also get rebates for the recyclable materials. So there were companies that would pay us like 30 grand a year for the recycled materials that they could come and pick up from us. All of that went away. The market for recyclable materials, and when you talk to people who are big on recycling, it's like, well, no, everybody wants it. You know, they should be doing all of this, they should be doing that. Well, they should be, but they're not. You know, the market has not caught up to that. So all of that rebates and all of that, the revenue that we used to get from the recyclable materials is gone. So it doesn't help supplement some of that residential garbage anymore.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Just definitely make sure that, like we saying, that 1,200 is definitely going to drop. So, like we said, as long as that don't come back to us as a cost, and when it sounds like it doesn't, so that's going to be something we be able to take back to the community. So even though this is rising for definitely reasons why everybody should understand, especially changing trade policies.
Yeah.
And having
that's hard to communicate because the people I talked to about it, I was like, well, there's just no market for plastic. And I was like, well, why not? You know, it's like, well, I can't answer that. There's just not.
So for the people who love to recycle or recycle anyway, is it feasible for us to then turn what used to be the blue bag program into our recycling program? I mean, like for me, if I still want to recycle, I don't mind paying my blue bags to stuff all my recycled material in there to take. I'm not saying that would be citywide, but would that be something feasible as a, I don't know, as a suggestion for the community? You know, if they decide to want to still purchase the blue bags, to now use specifically for recycled material to take, you know, on their own to the recycling center, or that's, you know what I mean?
They can take
You
it
can
to
do
the
the blue bags,
recycle
too, yeah.
center
You can
for
do that
free.
already.
Or just do it anyway.
Anybody can come to the recycle center
And-
and drop off. It doesn't matter where you're from, who, or anything, as long as it's recyclables and you're coming there to recycle.
So if it's
So
a
that's-
recyclable, like glass, plastic, cardboard, paper,
Plastic, glass,
Magazine,
cardboard,
cardboard.
paper, metal.
aluminum cans, cans, any of that, anyone can bring. You don't have to be a resident of Snellville.
I've got people driving from Beaufort to bring their glass. Come to the recycle
I know in
center.
other cities, elected officials that actually refer people to our city, the recycling center. So
If they bring us glass, we do.
So if, the only thing, for the recycling center, the only thing that's limited to people that live within the city limits is yard waste and household junk. And the reason for that is because it costs us a lot of money to have those things. The yard waste gets ground up and turned into mulch that people can get. Or the household junk is a truck delivery, right? So those cost us money that we're paying out of taxpayer funds, so it's not fair that people from other cities get to come dump that for free, and we're the ones paying for their stuff to get moved, right? So they're getting to avoid, or we get to avoid a dump fee. You know, you clean out your basement, you got some stuff, you can take over there and dump it for free. I don't have to take it to the landfill and pay whatever, $40, $60 to dump something.
And I added that when
You're laughing, am I saying something wrong?
I'm hearing like 150.
Right.
Oh,
Go to the
wow.
landfill.
Wow. It used to be 40.
It was 45 in the cab when I went, so we weren't that far off.
One last question, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you mentioned it, Norman, let me know if this is, we can't discuss it here, but you mentioned that the city was paying the sanitation fee,
It was coming out of the general fund.
right, do you know how much that was?
This year was a little over $1 million. We subsidized the residential garbage.
And we have been subsidizing it for
20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, and it's been coming outside in the general fund, from the general fund, and it's over $1 million. And so there's 7,600 homes that we're serving with the fee that we're charging them, that's gonna cover that. It's a shortfall that we have. And How much is the contract that we're paying right now, currently? Can we
How much
see
you
that
paying, how much you
contract
paying,
with waste
Rick?
Waste management, the sanitation contract that we have currently? Can we see that? Alright. That would be good. Do you know off the top of your head how much it is?
For residential?
Both.
Well, commercial depends on how often you pick up in the size, so that's like a whole chart for that. So I don't know.
You're talking about total contract for the year.
Oh, I don't know that, perhaps, not that.
What is it for?
Wait, look, it'll be in the
It's a
enterprise
per
fund.
house.
I mean, per household, it's per household for residential. The whole contract isn't like one big price, like a building or a road or sidewalk.
Didn't you
It's-
mention
it's
that
charged.
when we were talking, when you were talking about the rate increase, that the rate increased from maybe around $8 to maybe about $17 per household, and that the rates were increasing, which I know, I can't think about like exactly what you said off the top of my head, but I know the deficit was over $1 million, more closer to 1.2. And that was coming out of the city discretionary fund, which caused the extra fee to be charged to residents, right? So how was that fee broken up amongst the households to make it like, the flat rate $20? Was that just divided up among,
Yeah, we just kind of did a shot in the dark
okay,
on that $20. We wanted it to be high enough to where we hope that it will cover what the per household cost will be when we get this bid back. If we come out a little to the good, depending on how the contract's done, maybe next year, instead of $20 a month, maybe it comes down to $18 a month. So all of that is, things that we can look at once we get the bid packages back and we get that all figured out, and then we start to put together the budget. But the sanitation is actually kind of easy when we get to the budget side of things, because it's its own enterprise fund. And what that means in governmental accounting is that, you have your general fund, which is where most of your revenues go to, and it's an ins and outs. Revenues come in, we spend it on designated services. In an enterprise fund, it is only that fund, and it's treated like a business account, okay? So only revenues related to trash services, so the commercial people that are paying their bills, that money goes into the residential fund, and then, into the enterprise fund for garbage. And then, like the tax money, that $240 a month, when that comes in on the bills, that will go into that enterprise fund. So it's very easy to see the revenues. And then you'll see the recycling revenue right there on that one report. And then you'll see the line items for the expenses that go out. And it covers, any salaries that we might cover, and then all of the expenses, maintenance and all of that stuff that come out. So that fund is fairly easy to see. And so what's been happening since I've been on council, and this came in 1999 or 2000, when the new mayor took over in 2000, that was one of his platforms, was we're gonna include your residential garbage pickup in your taxes. And at the time, the city had a huge surplus of funds. So that was a way of essentially giving the taxpayers more service without really messing with the millage rate. So add service, not fees. When I was first elected, so when I came on in 2005, so 2006 was my first budget year, the shortfall, when that enterprise fund, your revenues are here, your expenses are here, whatever that shortage was, we would just take from the general fund and plop over here and balance that account, okay? When I first came on, it was around $380,000 a year, give or take 20, 30,000. And over the years, that has just steadily grown and grown and grown. And so for those first couple of years that he was mayor, that all worked out fine because there were plenty of surplus funds. When I got on council, so this is like 5 years later, that surplus fund balance had dwindled. It had been spent down. And then those councils refused to they kept rolling back the millage rate every year. So they were really keeping taxes the same, not allowing any kind of valuation increase in the taxes. And the sanitation fees were going up, and other expenses were going up, but they were refusing to raise the revenues. So when you have that problem, now you run out of surplus funds and you can't balance a budget. And so needed things were getting cut out of the budget. And when I say needed things, like there was one budget I still remember, there was like $360,000 of emergency stormwater projects because 2 roads were about to collapse. And it got cut out of the budget to make the budget balance. Those types of things, we stopped paving streets because we didn't have money. You know, all of those things in order to not raise that millage rate. And all this time, sanitation costs going up and up and up. So at some point, it had to stop, right? So, but the enterprise fund is easy. It's easy to read that financial. Happy to go over any of it with you. Matt will too.
No, you answered our question.
But that, you know, so we just got to this. Butch has been on me for 6 years. You start charging for garbage. You start charging for garbage, and we're like, not now, not now, not now. You know, and we just refuse to do it. And then, you know, and we ran into COVID, and we ran into this, and we ran into that, and we had this recession, and it's like we don't want to add on more for people. So, you know, we just kept lumping it, but we've been taking out of our surplus funds the last couple of years to help balance our budget.
That painfully hurts to hear, but it's the truth. So,
It's not easy. I mean, truly, this was something that needed to be done probably 6 years ago.
And I guess what I would say is, you know, while residents, we've said we haven't been paying for garbage, you really have been paying for it. It's coming from your taxes, which is really an equitable way of paying for something. You know, my house is worth $300,000, Melissa's worth $500,000. Well, if we increase taxes, she's going to pay more taxes than I am. But our service is the same. I get a weekly pickup, she gets a weekly pickup. It's not really equitable
It's not fair.
in that way, right? And so people have been paying for it. It hasn't had its own line item on your tax bill. But it's funded. It's not funded by anything else that I know of. There's no slush fund that I've seen anywhere that's paying for that.
Have you ever considered other options of collecting trash, like pay as you go, like what you just said? Everybody doesn't pay the same. I know in Florida, they have some areas where maybe a senior citizen that's a widow, they don't pay as much as someone who has a household of 5 children or household of 5, period. Or you have a share. We have some of our neighbors who they only have 1 van, and because they only have 1 person in the household, they share that trash because they just don't make up that much. So like you were just saying, you know, Melissa wouldn't pay as much because she doesn't use as much. So we're all that's the equalizer. Everybody has to pay the same amount. But is there a way that we can consider investigating other options to where citizens may not have to pay the same amount because they will pay as they go? That is something that's actually being used in other cities or specifically Florida. Same thing with maybe, and I understand whatever program we have, how you gonna pay for it. I am clear on that. I'm just throwing these things out here just to something to think about. Exemptions for our seniors. People who are on fixed income, like the young lady that came in, it was devastating. I said, I know for me, I was crying for her. And so what can we do for something like that? We know that we have people who may be on fixed incomes. We can do a sanitation exemption or a discount. But again, how are we going to pay for these types of programs? But maybe we can start thinking. I know you guys have a lot of experience and knowledge. Maybe we can see with everything that you've been going through with this, maybe we can look into those things to see if there are options. Because I would want somebody who's by themselves and maybe it takes 2 weeks for them to fill up their garbage. But then they're paying for the same amount for somebody who fills it up that week. So pay as you go, exemptions, and discounts.
And I would say to those things, that all sounds really great. And I think the devil gets into the practicality of maintaining that, knowing right now on the putting it on the tax bills, we have to manually go in and put that on everybody's tax bills. So we have to manually know every person that would be eligible for an exemption. The other thing that comes to mind for me is how do you really regulate and enforce that? Who's gonna say that I'm gonna go in and say, hey, it's just me and my husband at home and we only want this smaller garbage bin and I only wanna pay this senior exemption, and then we have 3 grandkids move in with us. And now we're exceeding our garbage limit. And so, you know, and then it's like, so who's gonna be the one to go back and follow up on that? You know, and then it's next year before anything would even come up, and there's no way to go back and verify. You know, and then do you really want this senior citizen to have to come in every year and verify that they're a senior citizen again? Because it's not like you're gonna get younger.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But how many people are in your household?
Correct.
And are you gonna tell us the truth? And are you gonna start renting out rooms and have more trash even though you're paying less service? So on stuff like that, I worry about the enforceability and the administration side of things. Now, if there's ways these other cities are doing it and it's working, you know, I think it could be a discussion.
When you talk about exemptions, somebody has to pay for that exemption. Who wants to do that?
Well, exactly, that's what I was saying. It'd have to be a program that we find the funding to pay for, because everyone that I said is gonna cut into our budget.
Yeah.
So if our budget is up here and you're cutting it, that gap has to be paid for, so you're exactly right. And that's why I said that, but it's something to think about, and I'll look into those areas that are doing it and doing it well, and bring it back to you guys, so then we can see if that's something that's feasible. And if not, at least we talked about it, because what I'm looking for are options to make sure that we give some type of relief to the people like the young lady who came into City Hall, because that was devastating.
The same relief would definitely be something to look at. But I would keep those type of exemptions to maybe just seniors, 70 or 70, you know, whatever. But a lot of those things would come up, like she said, they're good questions. A lot of those things is usually how you iron out during the contract bid as part of your proposal, and maybe that
Well,
would
it wouldn't affect the contract.
It wouldn't bind the contract.
It's
bid.
really what we're probably back to where we shouldn't be talking about, but.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's really about what we're billing, not what the contractor will bid for us.
Yeah, what they
The
do.
contractor, it's a stop that they have to pick up.
So they would stop, I probably said that wrong, but yes, man, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I was saying, like with the, how they bid, I'm sorry, with the, Lord have mercy.
Get it right, CJ.
I'm really-
I have a question.
Yes.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's kind of on the line of Dylan. If we had a program with a senior exemption or a pay-as-you-go and somebody gets their trash picked up every week, would there be an additional fee for the administration of that? Because then your truck drivers are having to pay attention to where they're,
Well, see, in our industry, everybody uses 100 bandits now.
Right.
You know what that is, so there's no way for them to know if there's, when they dump, if the
Right.
person only got, and it's done by weight. Everything we do is by weight.
yeah,
We pay by weight, we pick up by weight, we calculate our bids based on weight.
right.
So it's kind of spread out, and the thing, seniors do get, in other cities, they get discounts for being a senior. They get a discount.
But if we did like a pay-as-you-go program and somebody's paying, which I think is a great idea, but if somebody's paying to be picked up every other week and they bring their can out every
Right.
week, they're still getting picked up.
Well, see, that's the problem,
They're
now you're
getting the
throwing that
service.
on a driver that's
Right, and that's my question.
got
with
1,000 houses a day, and they're saying, yes, no, yes, no.
Right,
You know,
then that's my thought of administration. It's not just us administering the cost, but them having to administer, oh, it's not their week, it's not their week, and which is
And other
gonna
cities
have
have
them
done
out more than 8 hours, because they're having to check it each.
they
house.
spend about 10 to 12 seconds at a house.
Right. I see them every Monday, they're coming through, man, I'm trying to get out of my neighborhood.
And those guys, a lot of people don't know, that is such a highly skilled job.
Yeah.
It is so highly skilled. They're operating a big truck on the wrong side of the road with their hand here, using a mirror, and having to watch everything around them.
Well, right next to that little trash can,
Yeah.
picking up.
But also for
Yeah, I
the
think
US
it's
things,
simple.
at least,
Seems
I
like
just
that's what
wanted
you're
for
talking
the
about.
senior citizen, I just want to focus,
On
just like,
seniors.
that's who came to talk to you, so I think when we get too much in the weeds and ask for exemptions for all these
Right.
other things, then you can. But seniors, if there is a way for us to help, like we said, that part, the cities do that part well, I think that would, even for people like me, I hate to say this, of course, I don't want to pay no more taxes, but if I know seniors are getting a break, it's gonna make me feel a little bit better about my tax bill and how I'm paying.
But what you forget is the demographics of the country are changing. People are older, there are more older people now. So, I mean, this would benefit me.
And don't believe that every senior's on a fixed income.
Correct.
Yeah, I know some people falling.
I guess this is the question for Matt, like, if you create all these discounts, where's the money? You're still gonna have a shortfall. So
That'll be a budget issue.
Yeah.
So buffer, you know, for that, if you wanna offer a discount program, are you gonna increase the rate by a few dollars to cover that? Like, how would you do that?
Well, I think we're getting to another discussion. I think
Yeah.
that the budget discussion is different than the
Well, I'm just
services.
saying, you create a discount, we're talking about discount programs.
Yeah. But it's
Well, I'm not talking about it. I'm recommending
Well, no,
that.
no.
Getting a
That's not talking about any of it. It's not on the
Getting a
organization.
pay-as-you-go program kind of thrust on me, I'm not saying that. I don't know how that works.
Well, I do know
What I'm
that
saying
those
is-
ideas require budget, and you're absolutely right. And so, like I said, I will do the research and have a conversation for the appropriate time, but I just want to throw that out there.
And that's
you're
fine.
absolutely right.
I'm not-
Hey, Kate, you're absolutely right. What I would say is right now, let's focus on this.
Absolutely.
The pay-as-you-go stuff, that's like a year plus 2 year, trying to figure all that out if we decide to do that. That's not gonna be done in 2 months for us to put this bid out. I'm just telling you that right now. We don't have the capacity to figure all that out, to alter the way that we would do. I mean, that's a whole other way of, that's a paradigm shift. Matt Pepper's not at paradigm shift right now. Making sure people's trash is getting picked up come summertime. That's where I am. So
And whatever-
we certainly can make changes on how we, if we decide that's what we want to do. But right now, I don't think that's the path we need to go down.
And whatever the service provider is gonna bid is gonna be what they bid, and then it's on the city and you to figure out how the billing situation and what exemptions you wanna give, but.
Speak up, Jim.
The service provider is gonna bid what they're gonna bid, and that's what the city's gonna pay. It's up to the city and you all to give exemptions and stuff after that. I mean, the service provider is gonna get their money.
So all worthy questions. I don't mean it, but Matt Pepper's not prepared to answer any of that budget stuff. Yeah, I don't, you know, I didn't come prepared to talk about that. So, but that could be a retreat topic, that could be covered in the summer, and you guys can all revisit as a policy-making body on how you want to do all that, and the staff will take your direction and we'll run some numbers, but I think that's a conversation for a few minutes from now. Here, right now, it's not trash picked up. I think we all do. I think that's what we are.
Off the track.
Trying to get some. So, really quickly, let me just kind of run through the timeline of what we think. So, what I'm hearing is we're good with these recommendations. Staff can go ahead and put them in the invitation to bid, put them in the contract. That is a part of the invitation to bid. We put that out on January 5th. And this is all in your memo, so don't need you to write it down. January 5th, we would have a mandatory pre-bid meeting, probably on that week of the 15th, so the haulers that are interested, they can come ask us questions, and we can make sure we're all clear, that we're clear on what we're asking for. Proposals will be due,
That's mandatory for you and the bidders, not us, right?
Correct. That's if bidders had questions.
Right.
Yeah, they
Just
can.
making sure it's not somebody put on my
Yeah,
calendar.
yeah.
Thank you for that, because I was sitting here saying.
No, mandatory for us.
It crossed my mind for you, and I thought, wait a minute,
Because I'm like, so I'm new here, I'm gonna attend every meeting, you better tell me. Okay, so this is
Not
just-
January 5th. Mark that off.
And just to answer, sometimes we have the pre-bids that are mandatory and sometimes we don't. We're doing mandatory because we want to know who's really serious about this bid. And we want to make sure we're clear with them on what we're asking for. So the price can be as accurate as they can provide. If you don't come to the mandatory pre-bid, that'll be explicit in the bid. You can't submit, well, you can submit a bid, but we're not going to consider it. You've got to come to this meeting so we know who's in and who's out. Proposals due on the 6th, and then as part of the process, the staff will have a rubric of how we will rate each bid. It'll be based on your qualifications, it'll be based on your ability to do the work, it'll be based on price, all of that. And Matt will speak for himself now. What Matt does not want to do is Matt does not want to just accept a low bid on this. I don't want to get someone who's like, I got a truck, I'll do it. That's not what I want. We want someone that's reliable, that can do the job for a fair price, because the first call we get every morning is someone's trash is not picked up. I mean, it is a very important service. Not to devalue the other things that we do, but this is the stuff that we get calls on the fastest, is my trash is not picked up. Where is it? Where are you? When is it going to get picked up? So we want someone that we can trust, someone who's going to do a good job for us, someone's going to make our lives a little bit easier. So we're going to have a rubric where we're going to take the top, however many candidates we feel like we need to, and they're going to come make a presentation to you all. So you all can see who we think would be a good fit for the city. And then from that interview, that public meeting, they're coming and making a presentation to you all, and we'll make a recommendation and ask you all to approve that contract on February 23rd, that February 23rd meeting. So let's just say Waste Management is not the company that we decide to go with, then we're giving ourselves about a 3 to 4 month grace period for a transition to a new hauler, which means all the garbage cans that.
Because if you think campaign season and elections were difficult, changing a sanitation hauler is worse.
Not to be hyperbolic, but it's like our Armageddon. I mean, it's like doomsday.
Because you gotta get the people to leave their carts out after their last pickup so that the old hauler can come by and get them all, and no one will ever do that, or someone will be out of town and there'll be weeks of picking up carts. And then we've got the new hauler has to come in and drop off carts, and it's a whole and it's a thing.
Yeah, we're not looking forward to this, but nevertheless, the contract dictates it, so we're doing. And then a couple things on the contract. So we are allowing. So right now, Waste Management, the provider, they sub out the residential side to Latham. We're allowing folks with this bid. If someone wants to submit just for the commercial, we'll allow them to submit just for the commercial. If someone wants to submit just for the residential, then we'll allow them to submit for just the residential. If they want to submit for both, then we'll let them submit for both, and we'll decide. So it may come out that we may have one hauler that's our commercial hauler, and one hauler that's our residential hauler, and there'll be two separate contracts. That could happen. So I'm just letting you all know that now. That gives us some flexibility, I think. May even help with some pricing. If we allow folks to separate some of that stuff out. Right now, the contract, I believe, is the one that we signed back in 2016 was a 2-year contract with a certain amount of 2-year renewals, up to 10-year total contract there. What we're proposing now is a 3-year contract with a 3-year additional term, for a total of 6 years. I'll let Jay kind of give you the legal reason why we're recommending that approach.
There's no rhyme or reason about the years or the extensions or anything about that. You cannot legally bind future councils. So the council sitting here, you cannot bind a future council. So the way we work around that is usually there's a get out for the city every year if they want to. But it's not really the other way around. And so the 3-year and the 3-year is just, it sounds like 6 years, but really any council could get out of it any year they wanted to, is what it amounts to. So,
Thank you for explaining.
And one of the reasons for the interviews, when you get down to really the nitty-gritty of sanitation services, every company might do things a little differently. Like they might say, yeah, we'll pick up yard waste. But then one company might pick up just leaves, or leaves and small twigs. And some might pick up bundles of limbs if they're so many inches tied together, you know. So it's like you can say yard debris or yard waste, but it can mean different things. So this allows us to be able to kind of really do a deep dive into, you know, those kinds of little questions too. So that's one of the reasons to offer the opportunity for us to really talk to the haulers.
And hopefully some of that will be vetted as part of the mandatory pre-bid. So we're making sure we're clear on what we mean as yard debris. You know, and what we're saying, the expectation is in the bid. And just for general knowledge, what a lot of folks do, and this isn't just this bid, just any kind of bid you put out. When you have a pre-bid, you usually compile the questions and send them out as an addendum, so everyone knows if anything has changed or to clarify, so all the bids are apples to apples. It's a very important thing. And any questions that we get about this always have to be, and this is just bid in general, always have to be in writing, so that we can respond in writing and put them into the bid, so that everybody knows. So someone can't, Melissa can't come to me and say, well, Matt, let me ask you this, and she can alter her bid based on my response. That's not shared with everybody else, you know, there. So some of this stuff is pretty standard procedure just for bids to make sure that everybody has all the information, it's all equal, and it's up to them to sharpen their pencils and give us the, you know, their best price, you know. But there's no gotcha moments, you know, for them. Everyone's clear on things. Now, there are a lot of times when we're doing bids that it's already in the bid package, and we'll just say, you gotta refer to the bid package, it's in there. You just stop being lazy and read it, you know, it's already in there. So a lot of times, the questions will be referred to the bid package, because it's all included in there. But sometimes there are questions that we get from these mandatory pre-bid meetings that we haven't thought of, you know, because the people that are coming to these are the experts, like folks that are doing it, doing the actual work. So sometimes it's, well, let's make a note on that, make that addendum, get it out so everybody's clear on that. And as part of the bid package, there's a form that we include that people have to sign off and saying that they've looked at and understood the addendum. So they can't come back and say, well, I never saw that, I never saw this change. Well, hey, you signed off and said you did, you know, here, so we're gonna hold you to that. You know, so a lot of little things that help the bid to be as fair as possible and as public as possible, so that everyone knows what they're bidding on. That's all we have for trash, unless there's any other.
You done trash talk?
Yeah. Done trash talk about this.
Matt's never done
This is what Matt's done.
So with this being a bid process too, that's usually highly sought after, just be careful of, you know, once the bid packages go out, you don't really want to be having conversations with haulers at all, if anybody tries to call.
Send them to me.
Send them to Matt. It has served me well on my time as counsel, is to never insert myself into a bidding process. It's a good way to get into trouble. So I stay far away from it.
I agree.
I just have a question about the bidding process. How is it posted, or how is it?
So it'll be online, and so legally, the floor is a newspaper and your website. For certain public works projects, you know, roads, sidewalks, things, the state actually has a mandatory database that you have to put it on there that any contractor in the state has access to. This really doesn't fall into that category. So it'll just be, you know, newspaper and website. Now, I will say, as far as, you know, you can as council, and listen closely on this, you can as council tell people we have a bid out. You don't have to keep that from people. You can say that. But if they start asking you specific questions about the bid, that's when you just say, I can just tell you it's out for bid. That's it. The rest of it, you know, go to Matt.
But I could tell you, probably any trash hauler in this
Oh, they're circling.
area, they know what cities are coming up to bid.
Yeah.
So it's not like, well, how are we gonna make sure everybody knows about it? They don't know.
In fact, I got a call from someone today saying, hey, tell me a little bit about this.
And you're just like, oh, call Matt Hubbard.
Well, he called me. And I said, hey, we're working on it, and we'll let you know all the details.
Speak with Marcy.
You know.
Okay.
So when I crinkle up the paper and say, hey, I can't really hear you.
Go through it, Tom.
Breaking up.
I thought you were talking about Marcy Fair or something like that.
But,
I have a word, thank you.
Why it's great when you give out her name.
I know, we can't get it out, because that's just.
all right, well, we will take this feedback, we will make sure the bid package and everything is ready to go for January 5th. And we'll just walk through that process, and when the time comes for us to bring folks to you, we'll do that.
All right, so we will have an exec session. So during the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed in the closed session.